This is where the fun begins.
Hello, and welcome to my channel, O.G.Starwars, and this is the literature review we do every, 6 to 8 weeks, focusing on a novel of the original EU lore. And this time around, we're doing Rogue Squadron from the X-Wing series, the first book of the whole series. And here are my panelists, my guests here, which I always love having on for literature review. So let's go ahead and go to Miss Martin Muses. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here and really looking forward to this discussion.
Right. Yes, this is going to be a fun one. And you have some nice points that you like to share and stuff. So you guys stay tuned for that. And then, of course, we have Rev Kev. How are you doing?
I am doing excellent. How are you today?
I am doing well. I am doing quite well, considered yesterday I was kind of in a funk. And I feel like when I woke up, I felt like I was like lighthearted again and stuff. So whatever was going on yesterday and made me feel heavy and stuff, it's done. It's over with. And I'm happy about that.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, everybody goes through those kind of things now and then. We know we're human and stuff. So I'm just glad to be out of it, out of that fog.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then we have, of course, thank you, Teresa. And we do have a couple of listeners here. And we are talking about changing the time for literature review. So it's in a more productive time frame for people to come on. So stay tuned for that. I will announce that as well and we're just kind of throwing out dates on what is perfect for everybody. So yes. All right. So here we go. So Rogue Squadron, and we all know that a movie is going to be based upon that. And I don't even know if they can even say that it's really truly going to be based upon it with the direction they're going to take the lore and stuff. And they have taken the lore in Star Wars. But Patty Jenkins is the one who's saying, oh yeah, I'm inspired by Rogue Squadron. And it's going to be based off the books. When you look at the time frame and even the history, Coruscant wasn't even a capital or even became a capital in the new history, the new lore. And the series is all about Coruscant, liberating Coruscant, and then moving on to the Wraith Squadron and forming the Wraith Squadron. So there is no way in hell that it can be based upon a book that the lore doesn't even match up with it. So yeah. Yes.
Well, and even the logo, but when they premiered that idea, the shape of the X-Wing has got the engines. It looks more First Order resistance than, I don't know. I just think it's going to be all new stuff.
Right. It's going to be
all new garbage.
Yeah.
Right. And I know Michael Stackpole is very excited about that because he's expressed himself on Twitter. And the thing is like, I don't know if he's going to realize how much is going to be changed, or I don't know if he even cares if it's going to be changed, other than that the books that, the original books that he helped write in the series is going to be out on market. So he'll probably get some royalties, but we all know what the royalties are, how Disney handles royalties for their authors, right?
Mm-hmm. So, they do everything to make sure they don't.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so, I kind of feel like disheartened for him a little bit, because I'm like, I think you're going in this through this, and we don't know what was said behind the scenes with him or to him by Disney Lucasfilm regarding this. So we don't know. So this is how I feel, though. This is what I think. I feel that I feel that he's, I wouldn't say being misled, but they're not being fully truthful to him. Or maybe they are, and maybe he knows that they're going to rewrite the history and he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Or he's just being professional and not going public with what he knows.
Right. And that could be it too, that professionalism, because he does probably have a contract underneath him, or, or whatever. We don't know. Again, so that's all, my speculation, my thoughts, how I feel. And as a fan of the series myself, I'm not looking forward to Patty Jenkins rewriting the series here. And I don't like the fact that they renamed the series from X-Wing to Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
I think that's
I'm not going to watch it. I am at a point where I don't want to watch something that's going to hurt my soul.
right.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes away, it turns us all into Padme. It takes away our will to live.
That's it.
There we go. You quoted Padme right there. Awesome. You had a reason to use that line.
I never miss an opportunity.
Right. And then so let's go ahead and get man, I almost lost my voice there. Let's go ahead and get into the heart of the original X-Wing series. This is not called Rogue Squadron series. It's X-Wing series. In the X-Wings series, there's basically 4 of them. So there's 2 comic, there's a game, or no, there's 1 comic series. I think there's 2 game series. I got that confused now. It's been a while since I looked at my research because I still plan on doing all my review on the changes and stuff they're going to do and for my compare and contrast. And then we have the novel series. So there's 4 series of X-Wings, referring back to the X-Wings in the original lore. This is the novel one and the first book that we're reviewing of the series. And of course, the author that kicks it off is Michael Stackpole. And it is a Del Rey book, and it's published in 1996. That's the first published date. I think the hardcover was later, I believe. I didn't put that on there. And the time frame for this book, it falls in 6 ABY. So this is 2 years after the Battle of Endor. And this is like what, 3 years or 2 years before Heir to the Empire. So there you go, you guys. So there's a little time frame of when this happens. So, and how many of you guys are Wedge Antilles fans? Those in chat and even on the panel.
Oh, hell yes. I love Wedge Antilles, and I believed he was the unsung hero before it was cool to say that.
Right.
I remember in high school, we were like, Wedge is the one who saves everything. And then when I read this book and they actually kept bringing up that point, especially the role that he did at the Battle of Endor.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah.
Right.
Everyone gave credit to Lando.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lando, well, see, because he was very popular at the time. Wedge was one of those that got very much well developed in the EU.
Mm-hmm.
He may have started out in the movies, but his backstory is phenomenal. And his story after his backstory and after all of the battles and stuff going into post Return of the Jedi and stuff is phenomenal. He's a well developed. He's got great character. All of that. So what do you think, Rev?
I got to admit, in A New Hope, I wasn't a fan.
Really? Okay, elaborate.
It was, dude, get back in the fight. like kamikaze Darth Vader's ship, like crash your ship into the exhaust port. Get back in the fight, man. There's only like 5 of you left, and you're and you're bailing on everybody. It felt I didn't like it. But by Jedi, he redeemed himself by then. So that he stuck into the fight right to the end, and it was just him and Lando taking it all out on them, the 2 of them. So
yeah.
So he redeemed himself in my eyes after that.
Okay. So you think that George should have just made him be a kamikaze or something then?
Well, when you think of the number of pilots that you saw go down,
right?
To see one pilot kind of, it's great. You want people to escape. You want people to live. Absolutely. But it just felt a little weird for me originally. So
Luke said, "You can't do any more good back there."
Exactly. Yeah, you can't do no more good back there. Yeah, you can. Crash into the laser turrets. You could take out a couple of laser turrets on the way out. There's lots of good you can still do back there.
Wow, poor Wedge.
Be a shield between Luke and Vader. Like, that would have saved some time. Like,
so you're blaming him for not becoming a human shield.
Yeah, I'm twisted that way. I'm sorry.
Well, in this book here and in the series, he even tells other pilots and him himself, if you're no good and you can't, offer us anything in the battle leave, or or like if your ship is impaired, you need, because they want to save lives, they don't want to sacrifice lives.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to tell you that Luke didn't want to sacrifice his life.
I get it. Absolutely. And I can see that now as a more mature person several decades later. But as an 8-year-old boy, I was like, get back in the fight.
Yeah. Man, you're such a loser. You should have gave your life.
Exactly.
Wow.
Holy heck. Yeah. So let's go on here. So the main characters, of course, Wedge Antilles, Cornhorn, Tycho Selchu. We have Kirtan Lore, which I think he was kind of like a vindictive like character, and we'll go through that some more. Horton Psalm and Eurisi Delaret, which right. And Merrick's Carrick. And I love her characters. Like one of the characters I'd love to cosplay. Merrick's. Love her. And then World's Visit, of course, Borleias. We have Chorax, Coruscant, I cannot probably say that word, Nequizor. I probably butchered this friggin' name, but that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was the most butchered name until they started getting the pronunciation right for the Audible.
Yeah. Well, even on the Audible, Coruscant.
Exactly.
Next Audible,
Coruscant.
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 Yeah.
My favorite is Palpatine.
Oh yeah, Palpatine. Yeah, I remember
Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine.
And it wasn't until the Phantom Menace that those two questions were definitively solved.
That's right.
Right. And then it's funny because it sounds like a drink, like Ovaltine, Palpatine. It sounds like a drink or something. You can go pour me a drink of Palpatine.
On the rocks.
On the rocks, right? Yeah, on the rocks. Dare you? Are good, how he says it.
Good.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And so everybody that's coming in to the chat that are a member of the channel, if you become a member today, your name will be put in for a drawing, or for a drawing to win a copy of this friggin' amazing painting. Now I'm like boasting on myself now. Look at that.
And you can brag on that because that's really well done.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Really well done.
Yeah. So, and then all members will also get 10% discount to purchase their painting if they don't win a free copy. So there you go. Yeah. So whatever size you want, you get 10% off. So I'm offering 10% off for members as soon as I get my stuff squared away and get it up on a site. I'm building the site now. So yeah. All right. So we have Wedge Antilles. He has been tasked to rebuild the Rogue Squadron units. And, when he is recruiting expert pilots. And in the beginning of the book, we do get Corn Horn in there. And I would like to know your guys' opinion about Corn Horn. He is a, original character from Michael. We know that. And he is told, you're good, Corn, but you're no Luke Skywalker. And that's what Corn is said by Wedge Antilles. So what do you guys think about that opening part of the book?
It was a great line. It was not just telling it to Corn, but it was telling it to us. This ain't Skywalker.
Exactly.
And Luke Skywalker ain't here. He won't be here. It was a fantastic opening line.
And for me, I think no one has beat Luke's score in their simulators.
Nope.
And that's when Luke was not even using the Force or even trained well in the Force, other than instinctive.
Right.
So I think that really, really, really shares what an excellent pilot Luke is. And that we do know Corellians are great pilots. I think that's the stereotype now we can make with Corellian pilots. I think Wedge is better than Han.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, that's pretty controversial to drop right at the beginning here.
Yeah.
Like fighting words there.
Stirring things up left and right. No, I actually can see your point there. If you think about it, what Wedge says at the very beginning of the novel, when he's talking to the Rogue Squadron, he says, the chances of you surviving the first 5 missions are incredibly low, or I forget what the percentage was. He says like 2 of you will be dead before the
Right.
first 5 missions. And then you look at Wedge, that he survived how many missions of Rogue Squadron, including the Death Star runs that we saw in the original trilogy.
Right.
Battle of Hoth.
Right. Right. And then so our chat says, "Oh gee, I'm subscribing now." Just kidding. We can all agree Corellians are great pilots. We have Han. We have a history of that. Cornhorn. We have Han. We have Wedge. We have Wedge's girls.
Mm-hmm.
You
With
know,
a Dash Rendar, the Corellian as well.
right?
Yep.
Right. But my favorite pilot, and I think that is better, or in my opinion, is Wedge.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been made like a part of the squadron teams in the future, you know, like in Twin Suns and others, where he was the only non-force user pilot.
Yeah.
So
technically, Corrin's cheating too, isn't he?
Yeah, Corrin, basically, he doesn't know he's force sensitive, so he's using innate force abilities like quick reflexes and stuff.
And he gets lots and lots of hunches.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what do you think, Rev Kev? You really didn't say anything. You kind of got silent.
Yeah, no, I thought that the way they kicked off the book was actually really good. It actually really brought me back to the old, what was it, 1993 X-Wing video game. Like I played that on my, one of my first PCs when that game first came out, and I loved that game.
Right.
You know, going from mission to mission, and then also going into the simulator and the practice missions and all of that stuff. So it just really brought me back to that 1993 feel of that.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what did you guys think about, like, because we do get a lot of like them doing the simulators for training and stuff. So we get that. We get various, like they did the Death Star run and other scenarios as well. We get in the book. So what did you guys think about that? Getting to see behind the scenes. We get more behind the scenes other than watching them on screen or reading about them on missions. We get a lot behind the scenes in the X-Wing book or Rogue, and even in the whole series.
Yeah. I thought it was a good way to start introducing the characters. You know, like they're top-notch pilots, but they still haven't really proven themselves to the level they need to. So it was a good way to introduce this side of Star Wars. You know, because it's not about Jedi, it's not about Sith, it's the war side of it, right? And so, so it was. I thought it was a good way to start introducing that, and honestly, to try to introduce all of these characters.
Right.
There were a lot of them.
Yeah, and all the nuances and stuff. Yes, of them.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, and I actually found myself keep having to go back to the beginning of the book, going, you know, where they got the list of all the names and who everybody is, because like I'd be like, who is that again? Who's that? Who is this? So,
but I think that's why they have the dramatis personae that they did, because I remember seeing that, and that was the first book series where they did that, and they continued it later on because
because there were so many of them.
Right.
And then they die.
Right.
Yeah. Right. They weren't afraid of killing off characters. And then and I'm just gonna say this, once they got into the New Jedi Order series, they weren't afraid to kill off key characters.
Right. Yeah, very true.
And I was like, wow. And that's what I like about Star Wars, because even though they couldn't kill off certain characters like Luke, that was forbidden. We know that already. Because it's about continuity, right? But they weren't afraid to put even the key characters in situations of feeling loss and not succeeding and all this other stuff, even if they couldn't kill them off. So they still put them in situations where it affected their character and helped them grow.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, right. So what you guys think? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that aspect of it, at the time that these X-Wing books came out, we didn't have that. We knew that everyone could live. And I remember just how refreshing, I'm putting myself in that year, that decade, how refreshing it was to know that nobody was safe except for maybe Wedge.
Right.
Nobody, because they were all new. They could go.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's reiterating what you've said, but and it's just bringing back such memories because we take so much for granted what we know from the past 20, 30 years. But this was new. And so when this book series blasted onto us like this, it was a fun time that I hadn't had in a very long time.
Right. And Soul Assassin says they can't die. They just get really, really, really hurt.
Really, really hurt.
That's what the back is for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we see a lot of drama in this, even in this book. This book basically is introduction, but we also get to see missions and the beginning of moving towards Coruscant for its liberation, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a great opening book to the series. It doesn't keep you bored. You want to learn more and more and more. And when you get attached to these characters, then you're like, okay, I want to know what happens to them the next book and the next book and the next. And then we get introduced to another squadron later. And that's very interesting because we get more into different species coming in. Rogue Squadron does have various species, but we get more species. And I'm not going to totally get into the whole series.
The race. I love the race. They're crazy.
Piggy.
They are insane.
Yes, they are. It's such a great, that too, leading up into that, that's a great read. So talking about new characters, what did you think about Corran Horn? Did he become a fascinating character to you? I know I've seen Matt Wilkins' review on him. He doesn't care much for Corran Horn. I think Corran Horn eventually becomes a great character. He does get put down a lot in here, put in his place by Wedge a lot in this book.
Mm-hmm. I love Corran Horn.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking that he is to Michael Stackpole what Mara Jade was to Timothy Zahn.
Right.
I liked him from the very beginning, even though he was an arrogant little, but as you said, Wedge kicking him down the way he would, I thought it was great. And we don't think of Wedge being that intimidating,
a badass.
Yeah. With the Reverend here, I worry.
I know.
Be you, man. Don't ever worry. Say what you say.
Can I say that?
Oh,
I
yeah.
I hesitate to say hell and stuff.
Well, hell's real, but
it doesn't bother me at all. Be you.
Okay, badass.
Exactly.
And someone that they're actually afraid of. That he is capable of dressing you down and dressing Corran down. Because every time I would start to think that Corran was being a little too perfect, a little too great, a little too almost Larry Stew, boom, he'd get his butt kicked.
Right. And we see that from the beginning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We see that from the beginning, from the simulators and stuff. So Rev Kev, what did you think about Corran?
I like I think what they did with him is they introduced a cool background for him,
right?
Which I really like, because then when you started getting introduced to what was going on in the Empire at this point, and just kind of that tie-in, I thought was cool. It was again, it's just not your typical, hey, here's a hotshot pilot from planet X, and he just happens to be force sensitive. There was a little bit more fleshing out that was done for him.
Yeah.
Which I appreciated. But I do have to admit, I didn't like his name.
Okay. Go ahead.
Corran Horn. Corran Horn. It's hard to say. So I kept finding myself saying it out loud while reading it because it just didn't compute in your head very well. It just didn't. It rhymed too much. It doesn't flow like a Luke Skywalker, a Han Solo. It just. It's just me nitpicking, and his name bugged me, but the character was great. Right.
Okay.
Now we're all mentally going through Corran Horn.
Say that 10 times fast. Corny horny. It's like there's all these ways you could go, and it's like.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah. So we also get Tycho Selchu. And he gets linked to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about that? Because we start, and we also know that Wedge wants him as his CO or whatever it is, and I sound like I'm
The
echoing.
XO, yeah.
The XO. There we go. And we find out more about what happened to him between Return of the Jedi and that series.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love the way they gave a face to that dude flying the ship in the Death Star run that distracted the
A-wing. What did he fly? A-wing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so I thought that was a good introduction, because then we find out what happened, and then it leads into more of the story for even Corn and what's going on with Asani Isard. That's another name, Asani Isard.
There were a lot of hard names in this book.
Yeah. I think it's easier. It's easier to call her by Iceheart, by her nickname.
Yeah.
Right. Now I can agree. Corn Horn is okay with me, but Isani Icehard, that's one that's like, it's like, okay, I feel I've got a speech impediment because I can't even say her name right all the time.
I don't know if I'm getting old, but that's why I kept having to go back to that beginning part. Who's this person? How do I say this?
Right. And then see, I'm gonna look at the list of names here. Who else? We have Roar Jace, Bror. So if you weren't listening to the Audible, then you'd be like, okay, so how does that exactly roll off for some people with their tongue? And Iziri Delaret.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Vash Vrisic.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of double consonants in these names.
And then you get to the happy moment where you find Gavin Darklighter. And you're like,
there's a Star Wars name.
I can pronounce.
And it goes back to a common name that can roll off the tongue easily. Yeah. Yeah. So we have Wedge, who insists Tycho Salchu, and Tycho Salchu is not that bad. That is uniquely not that bad, even though when it can sound or look like it's bad. Tycho Salchu, and so we have Admiral Akbar allowing that, but very cautious. And so what do you think about all that situation of like with Tycho and him being prisoner of Iceheart and all of that? And then him, basically, he didn't escape. They let him go because he wasn't responding to the brainwashing manipulation. So what do you guys think about that with Tycho and his backstory from, after Return of the Jedi?
Well, I thought it was a good red herring because we know that there is somebody that is a spy within Rogue Squadron. And sure, wouldn't that make sense? On the other hand, Wedge trusts him, so there must be something more to it.
Right. Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. And we know later down the line, he, eventually marries Winter. So
I didn't know that. I haven't read this series yet.
Whoops. Spoiler, sorry.
I'm just kidding. Spoil away. But this is the first time I've ever read this.
Who Wedge marries. And let me tell you what happens to Face. And
yeah.
Oh my God. Damn it. You got me. Holy heck. But yeah, so he becomes a very interesting character. And Rev, have you read Legacy of the Force series?
I haven't read that one yet either.
Okay. So there's some good bits of him in there too, and him talking to Wedge Antilles' daughter. So it's something to look forward to, especially with the whole the family of friends, like how Wedge is close with Luke and Han and all them, and they always relied on each other somehow. There's a huge split in that series. And it's so just not trying to give you too much spoilers, but it's a great series to read.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, we have families fighting against families, daughter fighting against father, kind of deal.
Good stuff. Good family drama. That's what Star Wars is all about.
Right. So we have we want to go back to the simulators and stuff. So we did have, like Wedge started like really honing in on Corn Horn's pride, I guess you can say. And so they had a run to where Wedge gave, the rest of the team information about the run for Corn that they're doing or whatever. And then he used that against him to kind of make him humble. What did you think about that?
Oh, I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bit of a mean trick, but he had it coming.
Right.
Yeah. It that type of stuff, like the whole military side of things, like I'm not a military guy. I don't have any military experience apart from all the war movies I love to watch. But again, it just had that Top Gun feel, right? Which I think was one of the points that the author was trying to do with this series. Mm-hmm. It's putting these young bucks in their place and making them compete, but not in a way where they can't be a team and all of that type of stuff. Like a very Top Gun military feel to it, which I thought was great.
And you hit the nail on the head. Like Wedge was, and even the whole team basically called out Corn Horn for working for himself, that he couldn't be a team player. And so they had to give him these lessons to help him realize that in the end, he has everybody to think about, not just him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because it's not just a matter of pride; it's also a matter of keeping people alive. Because
exactly,
that kind of attitude gets people killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. It's a unit. It's a squadron. It's not. It's not a lone mission. It's you go out on missions with your squad.
Right. And then we have Amen Fate. I only read this 3 weeks ago, but I don't mind spoilers. Okay. I'm glad you're here with us.
Yeah. Well, I hope the Rev doesn't really mind spoilers because you just gave him a good one.
No, I'm all good with spoilers. I'm a sucker for spoilers. I always read spoilers online. So.
Okay.
All right. And usually I say, okay, spoilers, but whatever. But it is what it is. And so I do have the Reader's Companion, probably the only good thing that Pablo Hidalgo's ever written.
It's a great book.
Yeah, it does have a great, and it's funny because he contradicts himself in here. If you get into it, he talks about, he tries to say, oh, well, the EU's not really canon unless it's canon kind of deal. He has this back and forth with it.
Yeah.
But then he has this little behind the scenes thing he adds for every book that has George's involvement or the company's involvement and what have you. And we have envisioned, so basically the author and the company envisioned this as a Top Gun meets Star Wars. And you know what's kind of funny is that when Patty Jenkins was talking about that, she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to write this as if it's her idea as a Top Gun type series or type movie in Star Wars. And I'm like, that's not your idea, sweetheart. This has already been out long before you even were considered this.
Yeah, this is 30 years old.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny how they take the past ideas and make it sound like they imagined it. Like even Filoni does that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they made it, they're like, oh yeah, that was my idea. He even tried to take credit for Maul's legs. And, we all know that, was there Kathy, George's daughter, kind of called him out on that.
I know, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm like, come on, sweetie, I guess you're Disney Lucasfilm's employee because our contractor or whatever for this movie, because you're acting just like everybody else that's in the company. So you fit. So, all right. So let's see who, I know I have people in the chat that's coming in and out, and thank you guys all so much. I haven't had a chance to say hello to everyone, but I do greatly appreciate you guys being here. I've been sharing your guys' comments on the screen as we talk. So we have Shane. I always thought it was strange Wedge Antilles is no relation to Captain Antilles or Belle Antilles or Ghana. Right. And I think that's interesting because then it shows like Antilles is probably one of those names like Joe. It's like everybody has it,
Yeah. Smith.
Yeah, Smith, Joe, or whatever. And so I thought that was interesting that you can, and it probably shows like the evolution of humans in the galaxy far, far away, because we all know that, humans were expanding from planet to planet in the, in the galaxy in the history. So, and then Nate, it was a time where the rebels were finally able to think through past mistakes and try to solve it before the newbies get killed and change that first 5 patrol deal. Yeah. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You got a good point there, is that we do get Wedge reflecting back on, and it's very sad in the book. It's like a little pause of like emotions when he's reflecting on everybody they lost over like all their campaigns, from Yavin to Endor to the Sissy Rook and Truce and Bakora and stuff like that, of everybody that they lost, and how he, their leader, has to rethink everything, and even warns his own pilots that he's bringing in, like Korn and all them, that only a percentage of you guys will be here after our first mission. But as we go along further and further, then your chances of surviving is more high. And I thought that was pitiful, and it's truth. It's hard truth right there. And it's
war
to digest.
Yeah. And the way that he put it together too, I guess until we actually saw it, that you don't realize, most of those people we watched in The Empire Strikes Back and in A New Hope and even in Return of the Jedi died. Yeah. Very melancholy.
I'll
cry.
I know, and that's what makes this a great opening book to the series. And it doesn't stop. Like, after you get past this book and you start reading more into the series, the book and its nuances, its plots, its everything, the emotions and everything that you feel from this first book goes off into the next, because it's all well done. It keeps you involved.
Right.
Yeah, and not only the aspects that we see with the actual squadron and the fighting, but also about how the Empire was made up. That Iceheart, when she says one of Palpatine's issues, his problems, was that he only focused on the Jedi, or the Sith, Darth Vader and all that, and he wasn't necessarily paying attention to all the different warlords and all the other people that were swarming about, which is why after Palpatine's death there is still war within the Empire, because people are fighting to take control, I guess. And she's one of those that is very powerful and can be that person.
Right. Yeah. And so, spoiler here, before I go on.
Here we go.
Iceheart basically compromised and had her dad killed so she can take his place.
Yeah. Well, that was actually in the book. They did tell you that.
Right.
In the book. Yeah. And that she had turned him in because she said that he was going to be joining the rebellion. But I don't know if it was made clear to us whether or not she was just making that up to get him killed.
Right. It's a speculative kind of thing. But he did have, his mind was changing on what the Empire really meant versus what freedom really meant, in a sense. I guess that's the only thing I can wrap my mind around, is like his mind was changing for the actions of what the Empire was doing against the galaxy. And, and I'm pretty sure she heard it in the home through him.
Yeah.
And her being as evil as she is, the kind of character she is, she took that to her advantage. She went and got close with Sidious, right? That was another thing that she did. She went and got close with Sidious, and she planted the seed of doubt towards her father and got him executed.
And let's all take a little bit of Pepto-Bismol as we think about the rumor she was Palpatine's lover.
I love when they drop those little hints in these EU books. Like,
I know. And
like,
I'm
who's
just
sleeping with Tarkin? Who's sleeping with the Emperor? It's just like, oh, okay. Don't need the imagery in my brain. I really don't.
It's like,
you will see the power of this fully functional.
Oh no!
That needs to be clipped.
There you go.
I've had bad influences.
Right.
Ah, the internet's a dark place.
It's a dark, fun place.
You call yourself Ice Heart. Watch me melt you. I don't know. I don't know what other lines he would do. You want this, don't you?
Oh, no. Every Star Wars line can be taken out of context that way.
Holy heck. But hey, it says that bad guys couldn't have gotten it on, you know?
Not much else to do in space. So.
Right? Who keeps Palpatine occupied on those down days? Oh God, my poor chat's like, oh God, what did I do?
Hey, I wasn't the one.
Yeah,
who
your
wrote it.
subscriber
That was
count went up by
Stackpole.
1,000. No, just kidding.
He put that idea in our head.
But we, you know, like Dala, Tarkin, you know,
Yep.
and then people speculate, you know, Ice Heart, Palpatine. Who knows? I mean, Palpatine did have a lady by his side in the prequel trilogy, right? That was another assumption right there too.
Yeah. Oh, there's some Soul Assassin just said something kind of dirty too.
Uh-oh. Let me
You may
see.
fire. You may fire when ready. Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it now.
And then Orange Hat, dang it. Miss Marmies, I was just typing out about her being Palp's mistress. We were all synchronized in that one right there. Bam, the bomb went off. And Soul Assassin, this is everybody's minds right now.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to be up for hours rocking back and forth in bed, just kind of sucking on my thumb and rocking.
Yeah, I know what this place did.
Yeah, you're in a fetal position and your wife's like, what's wrong? And you're like, it's too terrible to say.
I got
You
stressed
can't
out.
read Stars anymore.
I went on the EU book panel today and it stressed me out.
She's gonna cut you off from Star Wars now. From the
Oh,
EU.
she's tried for years.
Oh, it's like hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, so that's what old Iceheart was up to.
Right? And it says, complete your pass at me and your journey to the dark side will be complete.
There you go. Nice.
Well, she's such a climber. I will be.
Ah,
Oh wait, that sounded wrong. Wait,
that came out wrong.
you know, but no, you know what I meant. Like someone that wanted to get close to power. That I could see her laying back, closing her eyes, and thinking of the Empire. If you know what I mean.
Right.
Mhm.
Taking one for the team, you know, because she was ambitious, and so she was like, "Okay, I can.
Well, and that's
I
what
can do
I
this."
found. Well, and honestly, that's what I've actually really loved about these expanded universe books, like kind of the backstabbing and the the corporate ladders of the Empire,
Right.
is not new because like that was happening in the Republic.
Right.
Mhm.
Like Palpatine just took advantage of that. That's how he
Mhm.
got to power, right? Just manipulating that greed and that that lust for power
Yeah.
Mhm.
that everyone had in them already.
Yep.
So, and he just raised it up exponentially. So,
Okay.
I
So
think
with
that's cool.
with this point you're saying, okay, so now I understand why there's anti-EU people who love Disney Star Wars, because this reminds them, the Empire reminds them of how they're acting today. I'll just put that out there.
There you go. That'll preach. Yep.
There we go. Maybe we came through a breakthrough over that. Maybe that's why they hate the EU, what George did, because the bad guys remind them of themselves.
There you go.
There we go. But who knows?
Oh,
All right.
I
Well, let's get back into the book now. All right. So now that we had a little bit of fun and the chat went off with different sayings, you guys are awesome. You know, everybody had there. She came across more as a spider pulling at strings type to me. Well, kind of. She did. I think. All right. So before we're going to get back into the book, but between Isard and Dala, who do you think was better?
Oh,
Hmm.
we all pause.
Yeah, I like this one. I like the one in this book better.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because she's coming out. Because again, she's in a different part of the Empire, right? Like she's
Mhm.
she's not in the military.
Mhm.
I mean, if I'm remembering this right, correct me if I'm wrong, but she's not in the military. Like she's in the spy part of the Empire,
Mhm.
She's in intelligence, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I just thought that was cool. Like that just brought, like, again, it's just not some military type of thing. It just, yeah. So I actually preferred her over Dalla.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like she was a little more credible, and part of that could have been the skill of Michael Stackpole's writing.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Dalla, like Nate says here, Dalla was more ambitious. So we're going to have a give and take. Some people are really going to like one over the other. But the conclusion I'm getting at is that no character, like especially female characters, and we all know there were strong female characters in Star Wars, even before Disney declared we needed them. We had them, right?
Yep.
And strong female characters, or any characters in general, wasn't immune from being a bad guy either. And so just because you're a certain race or gender doesn't mean you have to be this romantic hero type character. They really gave us some great female characters on all spectrums of the lore. And I really like that. And Dalla's good for what she did, right? And then so is Isard is good for what she did. But they were some strong, phenomenal female characters on the bad side, on the villain side.
Very true.
Right. And so I really like that about that. So they, they were like training for a whole month. Wedge was tasked with recreating the Rogue Squadron. We get the emotional side of it, like how he's lost so many people in the past, and stuff, and how he's trying to build it up, Rogue Squadron, to be the fear in the Empire or the Imperial remnants' eyes and stuff, and the heroes of the Republic. Because now we're not talking about the rebellion anymore. We're talking about the New Republic. They're still trying to form it. What planet, I forgot to write it down, but what planet are they on right now for their home base for the New Republic?
Oh, at the end Borleias was the rogues. I'm assuming that was also for the Republic as well. That's what they ended up with at the end.
Yeah, at the end, but in the beginning, what planet were they? Where were they? Were they still with Home One? I know they weren't still with Home One. I know they had planted a home base.
I don't remember. I'm leafing through the book to see if I can find it, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
It wasn't Chorax, was it?
Everybody Google.
Yeah, right. No idea exactly.
I didn't write that down because I wasn't
going to Google.
Yeah, there's Google. I would say Wikipedia, but there sometimes are very much not reliable. Like a lot of things is getting switched over and manipulated for the new lore. I've been noticing that. So
that's right. Yeah, they have been changing it.
Right. And even like past conflicts of like when Anakin was really knighted, now they took the information off and just said, oh, it was this date. And it's like, not really. But so don't rely on Wikipedia that much because it's independently done and everything's getting switched over to kind of match what is going on in the new lore, even with the so-called quote unquote legends. So be careful with that. That's all I got to say about that. But so they've been training for, a month and stuff. And they are ready for the grand mission to retake the core from the Empire. And I think their first mission is Borleias, because that's the next step further or closer, right? And then we have the Rogue Squadron who rescued a Corellian freighter, and her name is Merrick Tarek. That one too is another. Okay, so I love the character, but for me, Merrick Tarek has always been a problem with that rolling off my tongue.
Well, somebody ruined it for me because they told me it sounded like a dishwashing detergent.
Oh, okay.
Mirax for shiny dishes.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, I could get into a little bit of like, nuance with the relationship between her and a horn, like, shiny, how she's shining, but I'm not going to go there. Yeah. But what did you guys think about her introduction and how that her dad ties in with Quarren's father?
Oh, I loved it. It was so fiercely obvious where they were going with it too.
Right.
That
Right.
we'll never get along.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I like it that it shows how expansive the lore was. First of all, just by even having something like Coruscant, having law enforcement, and that Booster and his father had a kind of a Javert and Jean Valjean thing going, which ended up with Booster in jail and the daughter being resentful about it. I think it makes perfect sense and gives a little bit of the star-crossed lovers thing going.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the spoilers I posted on Twitter today before we got ready was her interaction with Corn. She was let into the room to rest, and he goes and he's like, "What are you doing here?" Blah blah blah. But their conversation on the Jedi cred that Cornhorn had, and of course that leads up to his ancestry and all that. We know that, but when she's like telling him, like, "Oh, you got a Jed cred and stuff like that." I really think myself that the Corellians are uniquely different, and they even handled like their Jedi differently. If you get into the lore, Corellians, the Jedi Order allowed the Corellians to have a praxium, I guess you can say, there, and that they were more family oriented there, as we can tell, and all that. And so I thought that was very unique because we get the stigma that the Jedi are this, are all the same, and that they have to, adhere to what the order says on Coruscant, which mostly they do, right? But the Krallians show that, as a planet of, rebels, of people who, don't follow rules entirely, that even the Jedi Order at the time was kind of like in sync with the mindset of Corellia.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Cool.
like I said, they I wouldn't say worship, but they honored their Jedi Knights with those Jed creds.
Okay.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, I was wondering if where the Jed cred had kind of come out before, again, because this was the first time I've read this series, so I didn't really pick that up on any other books that I've gone through yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So there's a little bit of history behind that. So there you go. And you could tell by with how Han looks, or not looks, but how he acts, maybe a little bit of Wedge, but Wedge, he's still Corellian, he still has the swag and stuff, but he's not as prideful as Han. Han's always been prideful, even after his arc and his change after the OT, he's always been prideful. And that's what Corellians are. They're very prideful. Like you see, you see Corrin, we see a lot of that pridefulness right here before he starts, his character starts advancing in the series. And it's just a Corellian thing. So we know that the Corellians are very, uniquely different. And I think I like that because we get, it feels like everybody's the same from planet to planet to planet. And then we get Corellian, they stand out with the type of people they have and how they act and respond and all this other stuff. So,
yeah.
So, and I like Booster Tarek, and so we get introduction of Booster Tarek as well, and then Cornhorn's father. So, what do you guys think about? I know you guys said you guys like the interaction and stuff like that. So, what do you guys think about Cornhorn's lineage once we start finding out more? Like we have the like, how far have you read in the X-Wing series, Rev?
just this one.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
Spoil away. I'm okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Well, we did get the revelation from Mirax that Corrin's good luck charm is actually something that belongs to a Jedi.
Right.
Yeah. That's mentioned in this. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
and I expect it to kind of go in there, even though the focus of the series, based on the first one, doesn't appear to be about the Force and Jedi. It's still Star Wars. So, and when you introduce all these characters, there's gonna be someone who's gonna tap into the Force at some point.
Yeah. And okay, so That Corrin's father was adopted by his grandfather's best friend during and then that best friend married Corrin's grandmother, or I forget how it goes, or mother or grandmother. Yeah, I'm like, I'll try to put it together because the grandfather was killed during the Clone Wars.
Right.
And so he was the one that was working alongside the Horn himself, the Coruscant guy, during that time frame. And then, so what the Horn Coruscant officer did, who was friend with Halcyon, which is basically the grandfather's name, Halcyon, did is that because he was involved in such a, intelligence type career, he went ahead and changed, Corrin's name up in the history so that the Emperor couldn't find Corrin or find, Corrin's father and take him or kill him to protect them. And so there's a little bit of back history there.
Yeah. I love that stuff. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So it ties a little bit into the Clone Wars, and this was done in 1996. So we know George had a plan, where he wanted to go with the lore and stuff. He had some kind of time frame and notes and ideas and stuff written down, right? We know that already. But they couldn't expand too much at the time on the Clone Wars and stuff like that because George was like, that. I'll be delving into that later or whatever. So I love the little nods it has in there without having anything ruined, like any contradictories or anything like that. So I like that. So they refer back to the Clone Wars, and I thought that was nicely done without having to worry about retcons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that right there, that was significant. Yeah, it was more significant that he knew. So Rev, as you move on to the next book, you'll learn more. And I think that, like I said, this book, it's an introduction book, right? But it also gets you into the missions that Rogue will be facing, and it carries on to the next. And so it's going to keep you baited.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and to a specific thing that we saw in this book about how they were able to refer to the Clone Wars without knowing what was going on. I thought it was remarkably accurate when that one character, I forget his name, was talking about how he was a little bit resentful of the fact that they were very eager to make a few handful of Jedi the heroes or the figureheads and giving them credit during the Clone Wars and giving them accolades and making them into little celebrities and forgetting the normal average people that were fighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we have there, we have the introduction of Mirax and her father, how her family is kind of like the enemies to Horn's family, I guess you can say, and all that. And we know that Booster, was eventually caught and put in the mines of Kessel. So we know that already. So there's that little stick there of why, there's this like push and pull between and blah, 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 blah. Which goes into the love story and all this other stuff. And it's very, very interesting. So we have Isard, and then we also have Kirtan lore. So you guys, what do you guys think about Kirtan lore?
Speaking of sexy dudes in the Empire, how he looked like a young Tarkin.
Right.
What?
When you think sexy, it's Tarkin.
Well, but he was a sexier young Tarkin.
I never really thought about that. Now I'm gonna have to go look at his picture again.
Yeah.
They make a big fuss about it, and that was also part of the reason why he was sometimes as successful as he was because people kind of imagined he was Tarkin and he would carry himself like him. And
yeah, and this is the first thing Stig says when he comes in, and Wedge will sleep with a chicken soon.
That's right.
Oh, yes, he will.
I get that reference, so I know what that means.
Yeah. So Kirtan lore, basically, we know that him and Corran Horn has history, and Kirtan wants to get revenge on Horn, and so though he partners up with Isard to help get rid of Rogue Squadron. And so we have that little thing here. And there's more to what's going on with the story with Isard and Coruscant, and it gets into the next book as well. We don't get the liberation of Coruscant until the coming books, but this is the beginning. We get the liberation and we get the freedom of Borleias, which becomes, their hub until they make their way towards Coruscant. And so I think that's really, really good story right there. And and he wants to destroy the squadron, and so does Isard, because we have this push and pull still. She is very much prideful Imperial, right? And she wants total control. And I think that's what every leader in the Empire is about. Like anybody who wants to step up that leadership role, they want that control. She's one of them because she killed her dad. That's obvious, And then Lore, basically, and they're on Telesia. Okay, so it's on Telesia. Their base is on Telesia right now. And so he sends a squad of Imperial commandos to raid the base. And though the commando mission to destroy the squadron is thwarted, many rogues are injured, and one of the pilots dies in the raid. So we have that moment, and I have a clip I want to share that is part of this raid from Lore on Telesia. They catch him, unguarded, and Corran, he doesn't know he's force sensitive, but he suspects, he feels. He wakes up and he's like, and everybody's asleep. It's at night. Everybody's asleep. And he suspects, right? And he goes and tries to find out what's going on and stuff. And I believe this is the scene that I'm talking about. And then the ambush happens. We do get a death. And we do get injuries and stuff like that.
I hated that. I really did. Mm-hmm. Are you talking about herself with the death?
Which one?
Oh, I don't know. We got a lot of deaths.
No, we have a death. We have injuries, and then we have a death. And I think it was Lejane Forge. That was
okay. That's the one you're talking about. Because at first, when you said her, I was thinking, is she not wanting to say it? But yes, when Lejane Forge died, because this SOB, Michael Stackpole, he got us to liking her.
Right.
And then he killed her.
Yeah, brand new character. And we're like, oh, I like to hear more about her. And she doesn't make it through.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Which is good writing. That's good stuff. When you can actually get you upset because they've killed somebody, that's cool.
Right.
That's good writing.
Right. And I thought it was funny because, or not funny, but I thought it was and I agree with Tim on this, and I'm going to play this clip for Tim. So hopefully I don't get any strikes on my channel. I don't think it will, because it doesn't have any John Williams sound or song or, score in there. But I really, really like this. But the thing is, and I'll let you, after I'm done with this, Teresa, I'll let you get into comparing the book versus the Audible, and then we'll move on. But the thing is with this is that the Audible does leave out some little bit pivotal scenes in here that makes the fight or makes the scene with Horn and the Stormtrooper really significant and badass, I guess you can say. So, like I said, I'll let you compare and contrast. I'm going to go ahead and play this.
Center of the cottage. Corran pulled the man's blaster pistol from his holster, tucked it up beneath the trooper's chin, and pulled the trigger. Corran winced. He who carries a blaster set on kill dies by a blaster set on kill. Tugging the dead trooper's ammo belt free, he noticed, in addition to erg clips for the blasters...
All right, so that's the scene here, and I'm going to go ahead and read the scene in the book, because it doesn't have the full details of here. Let me see here. He says, not good. Stormtroopers travel in squads of 9. Let's figure 24 with the crew of whatever brought them here. Corran refastened the ammo belt and slung it across his body reholster. Let me see if I make sure I'm on the right one. Okay, no, I'm not on the right one. It's the same page, but I read too far. But basically, in that scene, he takes and he kicks the stormtrooper in the belly or something like that, and he takes control of him. There's a little scuffle. When he kicks him, the stormtrooper kind of throws up inside his helmet or whatever, and then he takes the blaster. He takes it underneath the helmet and blasts him through from underneath the helmet. Very gory, very dramatic scene, and very awesome. And they didn't really make it as awesome as it is if you would read it and imagine it in your head in the Audible. So that's my point. So Teresa, you did put out some points between the Audible and the book. So go ahead and share.
Okay. Well, this is definitely one of them. I thought that killing was one of the most graphic killings in all of Star Wars, because just as you described how he started to vomit inside his helmet, and we realize that we are really truly dealing with some real war, and so, some of those were also some of the changes that you're going to find between the Audible and as well as in the book. And I think that is included in some of the things that I highlighted, where they had Corran and I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I'm hearing myself echo. I don't know if it's me.
No, you're not echoing on my side.
I don't hear it either.
Okay, because I'm hearing myself echo, so I'm hearing my voice echo back to me. I'll ignore it. How's that? Where they sit and they do a lot of analyzing about the situation that they are in, as opposed to previously. I mean, I think it's very hard, Laura, for me to exactly pinpoint as far as a difference between the two, but there were just some significant passages that I noted, but you've already said one of them, and that was when Wedge went on and on about all the different people that they have killed, and I'm sorry, that have been killed, and that was a big part of what Wedge said. And also there was a discussion that he had with the general when they were finding that people were not dying in a certain run, and why they hadn't. And I can't find it right here. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to mute myself because I don't know what's going on, but I really can't hear. I'm sorry, and I think that's coming across. Just a moment.
All right. Yeah. So with the Audible, and I'm kind of echoing too. We are just like freaking echoing right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to O.G.Starwars Echo Base.
There you go. Yeah, it just started. It wasn't there before.
No, it wasn't. And I've been, I paused or let me mute and then unmute. Sometimes that happens or helps as well. But with the Audible, and we were discussing this behind the scenes before we became live, is that with the Audible, if it's abridged, it's very plot heavy, but there are nuances that they are missing that contribute a lot to the plot that they take out. And one example that I have shared is that not many people, like, there's a mixed feelings about Darkness trilogy. I like the trilogy. I love continuity, so I like it due to the fact that we learn how Luke Skywalker and the family finds out who Padme is to them and what had really happened. It references back to the novel and movie of Revenge of the Sith very well.
Which book was that in?
Darkness trilogy.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you go. It's another spoiler if you haven't got there.
That's okay.
But it's very, very unique, and it's very, and like I said, continuity. If you like continuity, you want to find out how they find out who their mother is. There you go. Also, I am echoing too.
Yeah. Oh, I found another passage here, and I'm just going to speak blindly into it and not hear the echo, as something that I found that was a difference between the audio and the book that wasn't present, was something that was very important about the way that the Empire viewed the aliens. And with Agent Lore, he was talking with a lady, and it says Curtin assumed her lack of fear came after years of being on the Navy's NHM track, non-human. The empire's bias against aliens and women reached an unprecedented level of refinement in the Imperial Navy.
Mhm.
Just a few sentences like that would not make it into an Audible, but that says volumes about the way that the Empire had its prejudices, that they even had a certain little track, an unofficial track. And it adds to the lore that the reason why you wouldn't see a lot of Imperial women in the OT was because of the inherent sexism that was present.
Now, do you think that this was because of that sexism that we see with the Empire? Do you think that's why we see like Isard, and we see, because Isard, she gassed all the remaining Moths, right? If you don't know, another spoiler,
Yeah.
climb up in the ladder. She also caught the attention of Tarkin. They when she graduated, they put her and she was like, really advanced in intelligence and stuff as well. When Dala graduated, they put her in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So there you go. But she caught because of her essay and all this other stuff, and her I guess you could say her grades, that caught Tarkin's eye, and that's what caught, that's how Tarkin became involved with her. But we all know more had happened, or we can assume more that happened. That's what it alludes to, right? And then so women in the Empire had to be very clever on advancing because they weren't taken seriously.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning killing someone like a family member or all of that, so we see that. So that kind of alludes into like, women were in, certain positions, but how they got there had to be clever.
Yes. And the Empire post the Return of the Jedi, post the death of Palpatine. Oh my gosh, I'm doing it. Palpatine. Oh my god. I'm getting influenced. But post Return of the Jedi and post time when they had maybe such luxuries to be sexist, if they were able to find a commander and someone that was smart enough to rally and to maneuver the Empire in this post Palpatine worlds they found themselves in, they were going to go for it. They weren't going to sit around and go, well, I'm feeling sexist today, so screw the Empire.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And like a comic that we recently reviewed like a few weeks ago, there was someone that was temporarily promoted. She was a Black female. Mind you, this is the Legends EU pre-Disney, who was put under the wing of Vader under a certain mission. And, so promotions did happen in a sense. And, but it was few and far in between. Mind you, she was Black and she was a woman. Oh my God. There was diversity. Holy hell. But,
Weird. That's so weird.
Right. That's so weird. That concept didn't exist until Disney took over.
Yeah.
And what's so sad about that, and then we'll move on, is that they made George Lucas look like he was an istinophobe. The creator. They made him look like he was an istinophobe.
Yeah, which is absurd for obvious reasons.
Right.
An istinophobe isn't going to survive in this modern world. It's absurd. It's just the way that it was. And also this concept of racism wasn't a part of the original lore. They didn't see skin color. The way that it would manifest itself would be in human versus non-human, or sometimes a male versus female, but not necessarily in skin color.
Yeah, and Orange Hat Review has a point here. Palpatine made 2 exceptions when it came to aliens and females. He had exceptions, but basically when you sum it all up, is how much are they going to work for him and what can he get out of them. One is Mara Jade. He used her for her abilities, right?
Right.
because
Yeah.
she's so strong in the
only
Force.
Right. She was only worth to him as what she can give to him for
Right.
him.
Yeah. Well, and wasn't there a theory in the original lore EU that part of the reason for the anti-human bias wasn't necessarily old-fashioned bigotry, but that there was a practical thing behind it because aliens, quote-unquote, non-humans, tended to be a little stronger in resisting the Force.
There are some species that did, like the Hutts
Mhm.
did, Toydarians too. We've seen that already.
Yeah.
And so there were some races, but the thing is if that's the fact, then how could Palpatine gain control of the galaxy?
That's
You know?
true.
Yeah,
Well, but manipulating prejudices through that because he was a mastermind. He just couldn't see the danger of that big long pit in that final scene.
right.
If only he'd have known.
Yeah, it's so complex. It
Yeah.
is. It is so complex. I know it's Mara, Thrawn, Lumaya. Yeah, they're like I said, if there was a value, if there's something that Palpatine can really use off of you, he used Vader. We know that already. He used Vader for his ability. He was gonna then move on to Luke once we got towards, Return of the Jedi. Palpatine was all about using people for the advantage, that he can take advantage of.
Right.
And that's known. And that's sad. That's really, really sad. And we do see like leaders who come up after him, like Isard. She used people too. She used them. And in fact, let's get into the torture devices that wait. What's the torture? Well, we kind of get an information through this, and this is later on. This is the next book about the torture device. But we do know through Tycho Selchu that he was tortured and manipulated, but he did not overcome or fall to it, and so they let him go. So she was using torture devices on them. And in the next book, we find out more, and the one after that, we find out more. And so you have something to look forward to, Rev, when you get into further into the series.
I am looking forward to it.
Yay for torture!
You're like, I'm looking forward to the torture. Yes.
Woo, it's my favorite.
Right. And then let's see here. It says, Amen, Fate. Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron will showcase a female Corrin type. Who knows? Who knows? And those who are falling for this, be prepared because it's not going to be the same. First of all, they can't liberate Coruscant because Coruscant was never, ever, ever a capital after. In fact, during that time frame, they were in a civil war. The planet itself was in its own civil war. And I looked up the history.
It'll be totally different.
Right.
I was gonna say it's like an alternate reality. It's not even close.
Right. It's totally different. So people who think the EU getting cherry picked and put into the new lore is honoring it. No, it's not. It's not. You might as well write your own story than take something in that everybody loves, because you're going to get a backlash, right? It may now be, it seems like the backlash is going to be smaller and smaller because everybody just wants quote unquote good Star Wars, right? So they think the insertion of the EU into the new lore is going to make it good again. No, it's not going to make it good.
No.
They're just changing it.
Yep.
Well, and I think they're even dreaming that the EU is even going to come into the lore. No one's ever said that they're actually going to be doing these stories. It's
all
people
speculation.
trying to read tea leaves that don't even exist.
Yeah.
So
Very good point.
Note to self: watch out for Tricia. She likes torture.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Always does, doesn't it?
It always does. Chat always like embraces that and just goes for it. Like even with Palpatine in his sexual life now.
No, we don't even want to be thinking about that.
All right, so let's move on now. So we have, of course, we have Kirtan Lore, who is now in the mix, and we learned more about him. And Teresa says, "Oh, he is a handsome young Tarkin." And so, I should do like the, like Tim is doing, like the 10 sexy women or good-looking women or whatever of Star Trek, I should do something about the men in Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, and let me clarify. He is described as Tarkin-esque, not like a literal Tarkin.
Okay, Tarkin-esque. I'll give you that. Tarkin-esque, everybody. Note that. Tarkin-esque. And I wonder, like, I have to look back at Tarkin's images when he was younger. I'm curious now. All right. Anyways.
I bet he was a hottie, the actor.
Mhm.
I'm sure he looked suave.
Right. Yeah. And so we have that scene with Corrin, badass, what have you. And then we go on to we have the spearheading. Now there's a spearheading reprisal attack on the Empire at the Vladette. I'm sorry, I have a speech impediment when it comes to pronouncing some of these friggin' Star Wars names. Vladette. And Rogue Squadron is next assigned to conquer Borleias. So they're making their way to Borleias, a crucial world on the path to Coruscant. And then the New Republic intelligence is unaware that the extent of the bolstered defense on the planet. So we're getting into all of that. And we're getting into where Corrin Horn basically assumes to get shot down and is dead. So I think all that scene there is perfectly well done. We get Wedge's like feeling about it as well. He's also thinks he's the best pilot, and we really didn't get into that little thing there before their next mission, I believe. Hopefully I'm still on in the same time frame order. Wedge is like, and oh no, this is after, I believe. I'm trying to keep my timeline straight here because there's so much going on in there. But Horn, basically thinks he's the best pilot, and we get that throughout the whole book. So Rev Kev, what'd you think about that?
Again, it was a great scene. It's a great battle, and yeah, just it. Yeah, what can I really say about it? It's just a fun. It's a really good Star Wars battle, and again, brought some tension into it. And again, because these are characters that you don't really know who's going to make it through to the end of it, because everyone's new, so you make assumptions on who the main people are. But there was enough tension in it, going, oh, maybe they are going to get rid of this guy right in the first book. So,
yeah,
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and later on, and I'm just going to spoil this a little bit for you, Rev Kev. Later on, Luke really wants Corn. We know Corn Horn's a Jedi, right? We already know that.
It's
later on,
strongly hinted in the first book. So
right. And then if you get into the history of it, like the more you read, and then you go into New Jedi Order and Legacy of the Force, we have a lot. We do have Corn Horn in significant roles and blah blah blah, as a Jedi. But anyways, so we get to the point like later on where even Wedge is kind of like, a little bit jealous because Luke wants to recruit him, because Wedge and Luke are very close. And he's like, it's like a jealous respect, I guess you can say, to where he's like, do it. If I envy you, becoming a Jedi.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Wedge has that deep respect. And that just goes into, how much respect Wedge has for Luke, the Jedi, and all of that. And what another conclusion I'm getting at is my compare and contrast bits of this is that in the new lore, like I listened to the behind the scenes season 2 finale about, bringing Luke Skywalker in. Yeah. Well, they're carrying the same mentality that was shown in the Disney trilogy, that Luke and Jedi are a myth, and that no one knew about Luke.
Yeah.
That's just again one of those things that just hurts your soul, because there's no reason why it would have been a secret who he was.
Right. Yeah. When like the comic, if you were listening to Thursday's coffee chat, Dina Shawn was so like giddy about being able to see the actual heroes of the rebellion, because they were advertised across, as heroes of the rebellion.
Yeah, they'd be like, we are supposed to believe wow, look, we randomly won everything and no one knows who they were or what they did. Yeah, that's how we beat the Empire. That's ridiculous. Of course
Yeah.
people would know.
Well, and the whole fall of the Jedi isn't far enough back in time between the Clone Wars and the destruction of the first Death Star for
Mhm.
people to move into legend and myth.
Exactly.
Yes.
That takes generations.
It takes
Like,
more
does.
than generations. It takes more than 1,000 years for that kind of myth to
Yeah.
develop.
Exactly. So there's enough people that are still alive that
Mhm.
knew Jedi.
Right.
Because,
Yeah.
you know, so
Even in the people who served on the Senate that was abolished, in the OT by Palpatine, right? There's a lot of senators like Mon Mothma.
mhm.
Even in the lore, the Moff, what's his name, Moff Gideon, he's old enough to have served and seen the Jedi, or served along or witnessed the Jedi.
Right.
And then the Mandalorians, like what's your name on there? I can't think of her name, but she served alongside the Jedi as well, and she knows who Ahsoka is.
Like Bo-Katan.
Yeah, there we go. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. So she, and then with Mandalorian lore, she grew up in it, so she should know about the Jedi.
Right.
Exactly. And as Revked said, we're talking about not even barely our parents' generation.
Right.
It would be like someone trying to say, John F. Kennedy, he doesn't exist. He became a myth. And we're all like,
yeah, it's less than 20 years.
yeah, exactly.
It's 20
Correct.
years. Like
It's just, you don't have even a generation between almost,
Right.
No.
Yeah. And I mean, and you can take Han Solo's statements about his disbelief in the Force.
Right.
Doesn't negate his knowing who Jedi are.
Right.
Precisely.
He doesn't have to, because the Jedi weren't these overpowered, lifting up mountain type people.
Right.
He
calls it a hokey religion.
Yeah,
And
it's a religion.
Not everybody's going to believe in your religion or your faith or whatever, right? Or they're not going to follow it. And that's just common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's just a decision like, oh, I just really don't believe in that. Fine, you use it, but I think it's just hokey, hooey fooey BS.
Yeah.
And
rather have a blaster.
Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And even when they refer to it as Vader's sad devotion to that ancient religion, it's not saying that the religion is ancient history, but it is an ancient religion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, ancient religion and all that. And then that was part of his character arc, right? So he really didn't believe in it. If you read Han Solo trilogy, he does witness a little bit of, like Force abilities. He does see Vader for the first time, in a sense. I'm not going to give too much spoilers on that. So it kind of ties into what he believes in, but then we do get the advancement of his beliefs, and of his character, to even later on, like in Crucible, he's like highly respects Force users now.
Mm-hmm.
Because his children are Force users, right?
Exactly.
His Force user. His brother-in-law basically revived the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't believe in that. It's like,
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like, it just, there's the cognitive dissonance with Disney, Lucasfilm, even though they have everything in front of them when it comes to building the lore and who Luke Skywalker is, who the Jedi is, and the believability of like the people in that galaxy with Jedi and stuff.
right.
It's I don't know. It's like off-putting for me, where I'm like, I'm gonna stay over here in this nice little comfy space here and stay within George Lucas's era of Star Wars because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it made sense and it's complete.
Right.
Yep.
And then so I have Jake the Movie Geek for $9.99. Thank you so much for supporting my channel and supporting everyone here. And again, everybody who's here supporting, even my panelists. Thank you guys so much. I'm new to the expanded universe. I've only read both the Thrawn and Darth Bane trilogies. Next, I'm going to read Kenobi before the dumb Disney version comes out. I highly recommend it.
Yes, read it. Read that one and ignore whatever they're going to plan to do.
Mm-hmm. there's so much that they're hinting on they're going to do that does break continuity to the OT.
And the book is just like all these other EU books. The book, that Obi-Wan Kenobi book, has everything in it that you would want.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
a good fun book.
correct. And yeah, so Kenobi, it's a standalone book in its sense, and it's still Star Wars. It still feels like Star Wars. We just get, in a sense, the adventures of Kenobi going into exile and where he is in that point in time. And once you read it, you'll understand more about, what we talk about, like the Obi-Wan series is going to mess up the lore. Once you read it, you'll understand more. I'm not going to give you any spoilers on that, but please read it. Have a good time with it. The book and the Audible, it's unabridged. Or no, yeah, it's unabridged. That means the Audible is in its entirety to the book. And then not only is it the entire book being read to you, you also get the Star Wars sound effects. You get John Williams' score, all of that. So it makes it a great listen. So if you have time to listen, or even read and listen together, you're going to enjoy it. If you don't like Audible and listening to them, that's fine too. The book is just as great because, like I said, the Audible is unabridged. It's the entire book. And then he says, do you have any Legends recommendations? Oh, depending on where you want to start at. You can always find me on Twitter or any one of us, and we all have all different opinions. You did start with Thrawn and Bane, so you did get into a couple of good trilogies. This book that we're reviewing here is the start of the X-Wing series, which is another great series as well. So find me on Twitter if you have any more questions. I will be happy to guide you. All right. So yes, Jake, yes, novelization is very good. Lots of cool details or little differences. Yeah. And then Callum Cannon says they always use the argument that nobody knew about the Jedi in A New Hope. I'm just like, about it, because even Luke is like, oh wow, my dad's a Jedi. What, my father was a Jedi?
Yeah, he knew about the Clone Wars.
Right.
Exactly.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't have to be
And
explaining
Leia.
what the Clone Wars were.
Yeah, and Leia going General Kenobi. And I don't know, maybe Leia's dad fought in the Clone Wars, and that's why she knew about him.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. It's like,
You served with my father.
Very basic English.
It's like these people, I'm like, have you ever watched the OT, or do you even understand English?
Right. I did just looking at the pretty lights.
Right. It's just all about the blaster bolts, the lights, and the spaceships.
Well, actually, at the end of the day, it's the whole concept of trying to write the trilogy or their lore for them. It's like they didn't do it, but these users want to jump in and do their job of explaining, which they should have been able to do within the show. But I'll just be biased and say to the super chat, start with this X-Wing, go for it, read all of them, because I think after having read the Thrawn trilogy and the Bane, that's an ancient one, reading these X-Wings, and then I would also look to maybe the Jedi Academy trilogy, and then finish up with the Vision of the Future, the Thrawn duology.
Right. That's a good one too. I really like that one. And then they say, and like we got to finish this up, but I'll just answer or go with this one right here. In the audibles, when they have Salchu, they did pronounce it in both ways, but as we get later on in the series, when we get into Legacy of the Force and stuff, they pronounce it Salchu. So, but we can debate about that all day, so I'm not here to debate about pronunciations with Star Wars, because some things we never got the proper pronunciations, and for a while Coruscant was one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Coruscant, as we said.
Coruscant.
And then finally, was it Captain Panaka who put us all out of our misery?
Right.
Coruscant.
Yes,
the whole planet is one big city, and we all went,
exactly.
yes.
Or he's wrong.
I liked Coruscant better. Yep. So yeah, so we could debate about this all this time here. So we're getting into now the liberation of Borleias, and we do get, it is a liberation, but we do still get like injuries, deaths. No one escapes the tragedy, or like the scars of battle, I guess you can say. And the new Republic intelligence and aware of the events that of bolstered defense on the planet. So they're going in kind of blind, I guess you can say. We do know that Isard, and lore kind of like has an advantage, I guess you can say. Because there is this, we start learning like little hints here and there that there's a spy amongst them.
I wonder who that could be.
Right. And I don't know if I want to spoil that for you at all, Rev Kev, unless you have an idea.
I don't have an idea, so maybe I can close my ears and go la 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 for a couple.
No, I won't say.
No, we don't need to. You don't need to. I mean, she just
That's
basically.
kind of a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah, but just basically at the end, she confirms, well, since our source told us this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that the person was in the room in the last scene we see with the rogues.
Right.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Okay, so I'm not going to say the name.
I missed that one.
Yeah,
I'm going to leave you hanging on this because I think it's weird for you to find out when as you read along, as you advance to the next book and the next. Yeah, so I think it's worth the non-spoilers. So people in the chat, please don't say anything either. I don't see anybody. So please don't say anything. So we do know there's a
Wedge.
spy.
It's Wedge Antilles.
It's Wedge. Oh man!
Well, we do have suspicions of Tycho Selchuk. So there's that suspicion.
Well, he's the obvious one. So
Yeah,
but
well, because you've already said that he marries Winter now, so
yeah. Yeah, so that's the obvious one. But there's some things that you're like, oh crap, well, blah 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 blah. So I'm not going to get into who the spy was. I'm gonna let you discover that yourself.
There we go.
Yeah, so that should be a fun thing for you to look forward to. I know you don't mind spoilers, but when it comes to something like that, I think that's something that should just be.
That's a bigger one. Yeah, we'll stay surprised.
Right. Yeah, I want you to stay surprised. But we do know there's a spy in there. We do know that that their mission was compromised, but they still do, gain control of Borleias. And so, what do you guys think about that whole situation of that battle above Borleias? What happens with Corn? I won't get into any. We'll go talk upon where we think he is dead at this moment here, and then we'll expand a little bit more on that. So, what do you think about that whole scenario of them getting caught off guard in a sense with the liberation of Borleias?
Well, again, it added some cool intrigue to it too, because again, it's showing that the Empire, they're not just bumbling idiots. There's planning, there's speculation. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
Whereas I find on a lot of the new stuff now, they just keep making the bad guys dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So it just created good tension, and just a really fun Star Wars X-wing battle. Right.
Yeah. And they have the series.
And what I actually did to read the last few chapters, I did it with the audio, the audible, while reading it as well.
Okay.
So again, kind of, you get the music and the laser effects, and just kind of really brings it to life too, which was awesome.
Right. And that's what's so great about like even the unabridged or the abridged audibles. Is that they still have the score from John Williams, the sound effects, all of that. So you still have that tension, and so if you are into listening to the audibles and stuff, they're well worth listening to. But if they're abridged, then I would say read the books first so that you get all the nuances that does, tie into pretty well with the plot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because sometimes those nuances mean a lot more to the plot than people think.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so we have Corn Horn. We do have that scene where Wedge tells him, your fuel, you don't have enough fuel to make another round. And Corn Horn kind of gets stubborn and says, I have enough for another round of attacks, and I'm going to do it. What'd you think about that? Because Rev Kev, I'm going to go with you first, because you was like Wedge needs to get back into action in A New Hope when you first seen it, right?
Right.
Go
Yes.
sacrifice yourself. So what'd you think about that scene?
Well, again, it was cool to see Wedge not just being some armchair general.
Right.
Like, he's in the fight. So, and leading the charge and leading the squad. So I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was Return of the Jedi Wedge, not A New Hope Wedge for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Wedge is like, he's thinking of the longevity of his pilots. They're there to protect, to liberate and all that stuff, but they're not there to be kamikazes.
Right, exactly.
And so I thought that was, but then Corn's like, I'm still going to do it anyway. So his bullheadedness, he went ahead, and so he gets himself when you read it, it looks like he gets defeated.
Right.
And there was like, where's 9? Because that's his call sign, 9. And the thing is like, okay, his ship was not named 9. That was his call sign. And so I think it's pretty funny how Disney Star Wars is basically now calling Luke's ship in the Disney trilogy, Red 5.
Red 5, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just call signs.
Yeah.
So Wedges are Corn's call sign is 9, or Rogue 9, and he's like, I'm gonna go ahead and be stubborn. I'm not gonna listen to you. I'm gonna go ahead and make the run anyways, and he does, and it appears like he gets shot down, and so Wedge is like, oh my god, I just lost him. They're like, no, he says in there, where is 9? He's not responding. He's not, and they're like trying to reach out to them, and he's not responding, and then Wedge realizes that he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they even faked us out with that message that Corn had left. Like, if you're reading this, you'll know I was left behind.
That's right, exactly. Yeah.
Right. And then and so we get that dramatic scene, and Wedge is like in disbelief, because we know that Corn Horn is one of his better pilots, right? He may not, and that's another reason why Wedge kind of puts him through the tainting and I wouldn't say harassing, but humiliation or humility that he does, right? So that his pride won't compromise the squadron as a whole, right? And stuff like that. And so we have Wedge, and they're in disbelief. They do get control of Borleias and stuff like that. And then lo and behold, we have Mirax, who sees him and rescues him.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't. Yeah, I know. We don't get the whole gist of that message, because we only get the beginning of it. So we assume too that he's dead, because he's like, if you're hearing this, you left me behind.
Yeah. And then of course that's also a part of it, because then later when he hears the full message, and he's like, if you're not dead, Corn, you will be.
Right. And he's like, yeah, if you're not dead, you will be. And and I think I skipped over this. There's a lot of like scenes in there that we could talk about and stuff. But part of like, was it this book? Okay, I better not. I think I'm confusing. Like, sometimes they blur into each other because the story is so well done in the series. Like, you go into the next and it goes seamlessly into the next book.
Right.
So I won't. But we see the development of Corn Horn and Mirax, right? And and so he's happy to see her, and we start seeing the development between them two. And she's picking him up in, I think, wasn't she in her father's ship that she picks him up in?
Yeah, the Pulsar skate.
Right. And he's like, oh, I don't know what your dad will feel about picking up a horn. I'm paraphrasing there. And she's like, oh, well, whatever. And then finally we get to hear, his message to, he tells Mirax basically they think I'm dead. And he goes, but I left them a message, and I think we can. And she's like, well, we can get back to the base quicker than they can. And he goes, good. And so, he prepares, I forgot what he prepares. What was the
Makes
name?
lunch, or like you make some kind of
Yeah, it's
snack
something
or something, like a
significant.
dessert.
Yeah,
Corellian.
it's in the oven.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it. So chat, I'm like blanking on the name of it, but it's like a
It's called
Corellian
Rish,
delicacy.
It's called Rish Kate. We're probably saying it wrong.
Right. And because it's a Corellian delicacy, Wedge knows exactly what it is and stuff like that. And so he proceeds to tell him in the message, by time you come back, everything will be done basically. And Wedge is like, well, you're going to be dead, whatever. And so they get back, and Corrin survives, and they celebrate and what have you. And I think later on after that, they say who the best pilot is, and Corrin's like, me, and they're like, nope. And we're going to get into Darklighter now because we haven't had a chance to talk about him before, and I want to talk about him before we close. So Darklighter was brought in to Gavin Darklighter was brought in. He's the youngest in the squadron.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great pilot, of course, because of his family history. His uncle was Biggs.
Or I thought it was his cousin.
Or his cousin. Sorry, his
Maybe.
cousin. Yeah, you're right. His cousin. I'm like his uncle. No, his cousin was Biggs. And so he has that family history, and Wedge really wants him in there. And, his commanding officers are like, no, he's too young, blah, 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 blah. But he finally gets clearance to bring him in because Wedge is stubborn, right? And he's a Corellian. He's stubborn.
Yeah.
We all know that they're stubborn as well. And so we get him in and stuff. And so there's one point where they're trying to say who is the best pilots, and, and how there could possibly be a tie, and how Gavin is the least talented when it comes to the simulators and stuff like that. He still has a lot to learn and grow. And they even say, well, then he can be apprenticed to the best pilot. And Corrin, this is where we kind of see a turn in his pride. He negotiates with points to share with Gavin, and then to take him as his underling, I guess you could say.
Yeah, little baby, but he's
yeah. And so I thought that was a nice little character development for Corrin, as well as bringing Gavin in and being trained by one of the best pilots.
Yeah,
because later on in the lore, he is very significant. So if you, like I said, Rev, if you haven't, once you read more, and you will get to see bits and pieces of Gavin getting promoted and stuff like that, and being significant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he grows into a fine young man.
Right, he does. And so I like the conclusion of the book here, and it leads right into the next book very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we have the epilogue of Keratin lore and all of them talking about their, like, everything that has happened, I guess you can say, and how she still has her plans on like capturing Corrin and destroying Rogue Squadron, of course, and also a trap being set. Right. And that goes on into the next book, like how she's planning on allowing them to basically take over Coruscant, and what she's gonna do. So she's just a ruthless bitch.
Yeah, and I love her one-liners because they always tend to end with, "Are you ready for the destruction of Rogue Squadron?"
All dramatic, right?
Yeah. She says it in many different ways, like, "Are you ready to help the Empire destroy the rebellion?"
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as we're wrapping up here, so what do you like, Teresa? In any type of rating, it doesn't have to be 1 through 10. It can be if you want to. And I don't know why I'm squeaking like that. We're just having a good time with the speakers and our
yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But anyways, so what do you like for the overall book? For your ratings, what did you feel? What did you think about the book?
I give him a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Flat out, hands down, no ifs, ands, or buts.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's just friggin' fantastic. When you pick up a book that, first of all, you can't stop turning the bloody page. And number two, you care. You really do care about the characters and the way that it develops and expands not just the lore of what we know of Star Wars, but the little aspects of the corners of the world we didn't even know existed until he gives it to us. I'm talking about things like Coruscant, aspects of the politics following the fall of Palpatine, and even the reasons why the New Republic were choosing certain bases. They go into some analysis of that, about how they were choosing to strategize this in just one book. 10 out of 10.
Okay. Wow, I'm impressed. But like I said, this book is an amazing intro to the series. Sometimes you get, like, when you get into an intro book novel to a series or trilogy, sometimes it can kind of be slow because there's too much like drawing out of introduction of characters. And I don't think that I think Michael Stackpole did a great job at introduction of the characters and giving us like drama and getting us hooked on these characters.
Right. Yeah.
It was really well. It was really well done with this introduction, and then when you get into the next, mind you, there's one book I think is very, very the kind of slow that I will still read again in the series, but I think that it's just like I think it's a lesser of the series, and I'll just go ahead and say that right now. It's Solo, the Solo Command.
Okay.
But that's just my thing. Read all the way through Rev. You might have a different opinion. So now, talking about opinion, since this is your first read, and I'm so excited about that, because I've read it a couple of times. I've listened to Audible, what have you. And I was listening to the Audible again today as I was, doing stuff around the house, cooking and preparing, because the Audible's only 4 hours, right? So
it's short. Yeah,
very short. And so just to kind of, refresh my memory without having to look too much at, the book because I do, I do annotate, but I won't. The book I have here is a classic one without the label.
Right.
It has the foil on for the, I would write in it, but I do annotate books sometimes. Okay. And Stig hates that. He's like, that's blasphemy.
Yeah. I do that.
I write all over them too. He's just going to have to suck it up. And yes, we're talking about you while you're not here.
Right. He's going to come and say, how dare you, you bastards.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I do that to my workbooks. They're all written up and earmarked and everything. But these Star Wars books, I'm collecting them all with no Legends banner. Trying to get them in the best condition possible, not even breaking the spine. Like I read it all hunched over and try to.
You get really intimate with them because you don't want to break the spine, so you're like trying to maneuver them in some way.
Exactly, it's hard to read in bed that way. It's like don't.
Soul assassin writing in books is evil. I've learned that going through college, especially my literature professors, like, don't be ashamed of annotating parts of the books you like.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but with review, since this is you're brand new to the series here, and you went through the first novel.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think about it, your rating, just everything in general.
Yeah. It's really high up there. Like I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
And again, I was surprised how much I liked it, to be honest.
Okay.
Because I'm a Jedi versus Sith guy. Like that for me, that's Star Wars. Like I like the Force, I like the Jedi, I like Clone Wars, like those type of things. Like that's so kind of branching off to something that's not that. Even though X-Wing fighters have always been a big part of Star Wars and TIE fighters have always been a big part of it. To focus it, like I can't remember how many books are in this series. Was it 8 or 9 or 10? I can't, So again, I really, really liked it. Like it actually drew me into this part of Star Wars. I thought the characters were interesting. I can't give it a 10 because I hated the names. And I kept getting confused on who was who. And,
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
But it's a great intro, I think, into the expanded universe. Like if someone's never read the expanded universe, like it's easy to recommend the Thrawn trilogy,
Right.
you know, because it's kind of a direct sequel of the characters you know from the movies.
Right.
But if you're into the fighting of Star Wars part, if you're into X-Wing fighters, you're into the TIE fighters, you're into the space battles,
Yeah.
I'd probably recommend this one right after Heir of the Empire. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And there's people who are like, oh, the EU was nothing about like Jedi and Sith all the damn time. And I'm like, not really. We
No,
do
exactly.
have a series of, yeah, they're predominant because the Force basically makes up the galaxy. It's like life in the galaxy, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that we do have like some excellent series and books and stuff that are standalone that has nothing to do with the stereotypical Jedi Sith.
That's
And
right.
this is an example right here. And so if people want a little bit more broader outside of the Jedi Sith kind of storyline, even though there's a little bit of the Force and all and hints of this and that, it's always going to be tied to the story. Just like X-Wings, you know, the battles is always going to be tied to the story, right? We're just getting
Star Wars, so you can't get away from it 100%. It's Star Wars.
Right.
So
yeah, and I agree. This would be a good recommendation for those who want to go more into the missions, the X-Wings, the fighting, and all this other stuff, and like what did they do to prepare their fighters? Because we get an excellent idea from this book on how they prepare their fighters.
Right.
You know, and it just covers like so many like questions that you may have had if you know before getting into this book. Like, okay, so you know, how did they get Coruscant back from the Empire? You know, or how did they defeat some of these remaining Imperial leaders?
Right.
You know, because the Empire was so big that we had those survivors that weren't at Endor and that were like stationed in other places, other systems in the galaxy. Now they're vying for the leadership. So we get an example of like the Imperial leadership all clawing to the top.
Right. Yep.
You know, and that's very to me realistic in a sense of like you know the evilness that you know the evilness of the Empire or the evilness of like a regime, you know, and stuff, and one that's really really big and had survivors and leadership. Yeah, that makes plenty of sense to me. So with this, when I first read this, because my very first EU book was Truce at Bakura, and I would recommend that because it's right after, that's like hours after the Battle of Endor, and we get an idea of like what's going on with Wedge, what's going on with Luke Skywalker, Han, Leia, all that, and what's happening right after. It's like this. It's like after the Emperor's death. Not everybody got the information that he was dead.
Sure. Right.
And so we get, you know, into that. So, I mean, you know, no matter where you start, if you start with the Thrawn trilogy, you get an idea of like the last Grand Admiral. They thought they got rid of him, like all of them. They didn't know because of the Emperor's prejudice, his xenophobia.
Right.
That there could possibly be an alien humanoid that was a Grand Admiral. Right. So that was clever. Just like with women, you know, he was, you know, in a sense they were sexist. And you know, so we have a emperor's hand, they wouldn't suspect because they didn't think that the women deserve that kind of role, right?
That's right.
So we have all these like twists and turns. And then so with, you know, Truce at Bakura, they basically, you know, we get the idea and that not the call of the empire being defeated or taking a huge loss at Endor happened. And so I thought that was a great opening to that as well. And with the X-Wings, we also get like, okay, how did we get Coruscant back and in as capital? You know, so that's another thing. So no matter where you start, you're always going to find, you're always going to learn something new, and it's something different, but it all makes sense. It all ties in together. So yeah. And so for me with Rogue Squadron, the beginning of the X-Wing series, I'm like a 9.5 out of 10 as well. So I think we all covered this really and a high rating for how well Stackpole put the story together, and how well he introduced new characters, how new characters weren't safe from dying.
Right.
And how new characters weren't safe from being ridiculed and put in their place. There was no Mary Susan here. Even if we thought Mary Cornhorn could have been a Gary Stu, he wasn't. Wedge put him in his place.
No, we haven't seen a Mary. I haven't yet to find a Mary Sue in an EU book.
Right. And then Wedge's development. He is very well fleshed out throughout the series here. Stackpole and Alston really did a great job with Wedge's character.
Yeah.
Very much believable.
That actually just reminded me, because when you get Wedge in, was it the Jedi Academy books? Like, he's on cleanup duty on Coruscant.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it actually, by reading this, it made that book better.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Because it made the tension, like, here I am, like I'm on garbage duty on Coruscant.
Right.
And I should be flying X-wing. I liberated this planet.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
But it's perfect and realistic because that's the way it happens in war.
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's yeah. Well, they fleshed it all out, and I think that you see in these X-wings between himself and Alston a collaboration that wasn't necessarily present in the Bantam era. I think this was like the first time where they really started to coordinate, and then they coordinated somewhat with Zahn as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we see the tightening of the story as a result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so this book, I mean, like, Rev Kev, I kind of envy you because you're going through this grand. I can't wait to hear what you think of the coming books in the series.
Oh, I'll be starting the next one tonight.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hear like who becomes your favorite character, or like if you get more respect for Wedge and gain more like respect for Wedge after this. I'm pretty sure you already have, because you're like, wow, he's not afraid to stand his ground, and you'll find later on in the next couple of books how much he has to stand his ground.
Right.
And that's all I have to say about that. So you have
looking forward to it.
You have to look forward to. Oh my god!
I know.
Yes, it's like awesome. I can't wait. So we haven't decided yet what book to read next. I did ask in the EU chat, and I earlier asked in our little literature review chat what to start next. I know Tim said the next book in the series to start on. I think it's Wedge's Gamble, I believe it's called.
Yes.
And yeah. And then Stieg was like Trusat Bakura, or The Heart of the Jedi, which is that re-released book.
Oh yeah. I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah. And so if you two have any ideas, I'm going to take 4, because the poll only allows for 4 choices to vote on, which sucks. Yeah. Oh, look at Matt Wilkins.
Oh, finally.
Better option than Stieg.
I knew he had to give a dig at Steve.
Right. Oh my goodness, that's funny. And then Orange Hat asks us if we haven't yet. There's so many standalones. Reason why I decided to put Rogue Squadron on the voting poll for this last round was the fact that we had the hype about Jenkins, making the Rogue Squadron movie. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, well, if people haven't got into the X-Wing series, this will get them excited to continue to read, because we don't have to follow the whole series. We don't.
Right.
Yep, we're doing the Lord's work here.
Right.
In a different kind of way.
Yeah. But then now that we got people hooked, that like Rev Kev, it's like, well, should we just go ahead and just review the next and the next and the next? Because they probably won't follow along with the next book, because they're so caught into what's going to happen after this book, after Rogue Squadron, because it's such a good read. And So go ahead and share in the private chat like what you think we should, and I could put it on the poll for people to vote on Twitter.
Cool.
Yeah. So I mean, if we stay within the Rogue Squadron series, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. We're just continuing on the story. If we go away from it, that's fine too, because then it gets people excited to read into the series. That's what this is about, is getting people excited to start getting back into the EU, picking up the books again, remembering, like how you felt, like Rev Kev, listening to you.
Yeah.
It's like I was like, oh my God, the sheer joy of someone coming into the series brand new, made me have feelings about how I felt when I first read.
Right. Yeah.
So it's the spark. It's like it's igniting the spark back into the EU.
Right. Like, oh, I like Star Wars again. It's such a great feeling.
Yay!
There's
You
better Star
see?
Wars out there.
Our work here is done.
Right. All right. So every single one of you guys that are here in the chat, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and making fun at Palpatine and his exploits. And all that stuff. And thank you, Stig, for coming in and saying, but Wedge shagged a chicken later.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Right. And thank you here for the panelists. And so, Teresa, go ahead and share where you'll be next in the coming week.
Well, you can always find me at Miss Martin Muses here on my YouTube channel. I don't believe I have anything scheduled. I might be hearing from some people. I honestly don't know. So if I am, you can find me on Twitter, Teresa2_Martin, and get all the lovely updates.
Okay. Awesome. Yes. So please subscribe. Make sure that bell's on. And then follow her on Twitter as well. All right. When are you going to pick up on your Lord of the Rings?
Oh, yeah. Good question. We had to put it on hold because I was in an undisclosed location. Yes, I am doing a series on Lord of the Rings. We are currently reading The Fellowship of the Ring. The plans are that our next one will be a week from next Saturday.
Okay.
Speaking of which, because myself and Lady Gravemaster, I forgot, we will be on the Nerd Fathers channel for the Faith and Fantasy for Saturday. So that's where we're going to be. Yeah, so we're planning to be afterwards. So if you want to catch up and read even more of good fiction, we are halfway through the Fellowship of the Ring. Plenty of time to catch up. We are just now on book 2 of the Fellowship of the Ring, where they're about to go off on their big adventure and try to destroy the ring. What will happen? Who will know? Go ahead and read it and tune into Miss Martin Muses.
Awesome. There you go. So there's something to look forward to. So like Star Wars EU is always going to be here for you, just like Lord of the Rings, right? So no matter what happens with the current state, that new owners and what have you, we're always going to have the heart of Star Wars, the heart of Lord of the Rings, all of that for us to go review, read, have fun, talk about. That's never going to change. That is never going to change. We cannot be happy with the direction the franchises may be going, but we always have the classical stuff.
Yep.
Always have it, and nothing can take that away from us. If you are barely collecting and starting to get into the EU, just continue to collect. I would say try to find the books without the Legends label on it if you can, if possible. So that would be secondhand merchants and stuff, especially if you don't want to give Disney any of your money.
Great way to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I do have some novels with Legends banner. But and I'm not going to get upset if you do decide to go that route, as long as you're collecting and building your collection. But I say if you don't like the direction they're going, don't give them the money.
Nope.
Don't give them the money. I'm like, I'm going to, follow my words and not give them the money. And that's totally up to you. I can't tell you how to spend your money, but if that's the stance you want to take, then do it. If not, then as long as you're still continuing the EU, that's what matters to my heart. So, and as for me, I'm wrapping up my month on my month schedule. Next month, I am, in the process of getting a time down for Teresa and RevKev for talking EU. I will have the schedule out here pretty soon. So talking EU will happen. I usually have 2 or 3 people that I interview for that. And it's all about EU, Star Wars, and how it relates to them, how they got involved. It's all about their story with the expanded universe. Not me, it's about them. And everybody has their origin story, their own origin story, their own characters they love, what books they love. Everybody's got their own experience, and that's what I want to share with you guys. That's what Talking EU is about. So Rev Kev and Teresa Martin are on the schedule. I will get you guys out that information here soon. Coffee chat every Thursday. I am also on Fall of the Night on Tim Open Airlock's channel, and it's every other Tuesday. Saturday. I don't know why I said Tuesday. And then what else is going on? And then my lore videos, I am now in the process of doing History of Tatooine series. I did an introduction. It's a very small video, but quick, introduction to Tatooine. And I'll be breaking down the early years of Tatooine and how it became a desert planet. And then later on, and how, the fall of when it fell to the Vong and all this stuff. So I'll get into that. So look forward to that. Tatooine is one of the very first planet that was introduced when we seen A New Hope. So I thought it'd be a perfect planet to start off with when introducing planets.
Yeah, there we are.
Very cool.
Right. It's basically not necessarily the origin of the Skywalkers, but that was basically their home planet because of circumstances. Whether one became a slave or whether one had to be sheltered so they wouldn't fall into the Emperor's hands and Vader's hands, and the hope of Star Wars, So we, that planet is very significant to the story as well. So there's my schedule there. And I am also hosting Queen's Council the second or the last Thursday of the month in September. So stay tuned for that. And it's going to be a slumber party type stream where we're going to have fun, maybe, pull up some fun games and stuff to do, just to be very interactive with you guys here. And what else? Oh yeah, and my 2000 thank you stream, I am planning to dress up as Jan Ors. And so that
Very cool.
I'm decided exactly what day yet. So I am going to have a week off because I have a family event coming up. So it's starting this Monday. I will have a lore video out though. It's starting this Monday all the way to the 5th of September. So a whole week. I will be totally just focused on family and friends coming in and all this other stuff. And so that's where my time's going to be at. So no coffee chat. Yeah. So thank you guys again. This was fun. We really tore into this book. We did. It was so much fun.
Good times.
Right. Good times. And that's what this is about. So thank you guys so much for coming in and tuning in. And again, all members will be put in for the drawing to receive, or a chance to receive, a free copy of this painting. I'm very excited about that. Oh, and my next one, I'm doing Quinlan Voss.
Yay.
I got something for the guys here. Got to do something for the gals, right?
I'm all in favor.
You got to have equal representation.
Fair is fair.
Fair is fair. So thank you guys again so much. And I appreciate this time with you guys and going through literature review. And you guys have a great Saturday evening, night. If you're going out, be safe. And may the force be with you.
Always.